If you've clicked on this video, chances are that you're not doing this role correctly. And whether you know it or not, this is costing you so many ranks. And when you start doing this role correctly, you'll be hitting top ranks like Plat, Diamond, or even Champ. Your teammates will thank you so much for it. And even if you don't fill this role, make sure to listen anyway and fill in the person that does do this role on how to do it correctly and where they're going wrong. So what is this role? Well, I'm actually talking about two roles, because chances are if you play one, you'll be playing the other two. And these are your entry fraggers and roamers. For some reason, people seem to see these roles as unimportant, but the chances are that they can make or break an entire game. Now, how is that? Well, let's start off with your entry fraggers. These are your operators like Ash, Sledge, Sophia, IQ, and even Thinker or more. Now, whether you realize it or not, the entire team depends on your success. Now, there is one massive misconception with entry fraggers, but first, let's explain what their primary role is. An entry fragger's main first job is to take map control for their team. Now, ideally, you'll have someone drone you in while you complete this task, and this tends to fall on the person playing support, and I touched on this in my video about the support role, and you can go check that out after this video. But first, let's finish up with entry fraggers. Now, while you're trying to take that map control, you're likely going to end up in a lot of gunfights, and this is where that common misconception lies. You see, most people feel like the role of an entry fragger is to go in and get as many kills as possible. This simply isn't the case. Your primary role here is to force the enemy team back to site, or just force the off-site players to scatter so that your support players can get in the building and have a clear path to site. Because remember, as attack, your primary goal isn't always just to kill the entire enemy team. It can also be to take site control and get that plant down to win you the round. And remember, every round you win is one step closer to winning that game and winning you your next rank role. Now, another thing you're going to be doing here is aiding the support role in fulfilling their task too. For example, if you're playing someone like Ash or Sophia, don't be afraid to use their utility to start opening up floors or ceilings and start clearing off their utility. Or simply start putting pressure on site, which will allow your supports to carry out their roles easier. I mean, if you're playing Bandit, you're not going to be able to go Bandit trick the wall if someone's shooting at you through the ceiling. Now, back to that common misconception real quick, because once again, people always think that your role is to get kills. And obviously, this is still a big part of entry fragging, is to get a couple kills here and there. But it doesn't matter if those kills aren't impactful to the round and don't help your team. Like, if you kill a Vigil in the basement, I mean, that's great, they're one player down, but at the same time, it would have been better if you could have killed the Bandit on site and got that wall open so you could already be planting. So basically, what I'm saying is you just have to play around the plan and around your support roles, and make sure you're doing what's best for your team, not just going for impactless frags. Now let's move on to roamers, because this role is just as important, especially if you want to get your top ranks, instead of constantly going down or getting stuck at where you are, because it's literally arguable that this is one of the most important roles on defense. Now again, there's the common misconception here that your main goal is just to get kills, but once again, this isn't true. So what is? Now your main goal is to be wasting the attacker's time and start putting pressure on them. What do I mean by this? So if it's that entry fragger's job to get in and clear the way for their supports, then get in the way of that entry fragger and get in the way of them supports, making them take that extra 30 seconds or a minute to get towards site, so that by the time they get there, they only have a few seconds left on the clock to start executing. But saying this, don't be afraid to fall back to sites at some point. You need to know when and when not to do this, because it's better to have you, an extra person, on site than you being dead and having not done anything. All you have to do is try waste as much time as possible and get in between them and their objective, which will be the site. Now, this isn't only wasting time, however, it's also putting pressure on them. So if they're going for a hard breach or execute, then start putting pressure on them to stop doing that. For example, no thermite is going to be able to break down their exothermic charge if you're shooting at them. So, to summarize this real quick, your main goal as a roamer is to take up as much of the attacker's time and resources as possible, so that they're heavily depleted in these areas by the time they get to your support roles and site, which should be your final layer of defense. Now, one final quick thing I want to talk about with your roamers is just as important, and this is the amount of roamers I see without having a plan. If you're staying off site, you need to have a plan to be able to rotate or escape a dangerous situation. So use your util for this. For instance, if you're Vigil, then use your impacts to make rotates or open hatches so that you can get out of situations quickly. If you're playing someone like Melusi and you're playing off site, use your Banshees to know where people are coming from, so that you can plan your escape and avoid them areas, or turn your focus on them. Because once again, the more you slow down the attackers, because you escaping will force them attackers to have to be on edge constantly and put more pressure on them, and this will force them to rush and execute and are more likely to make mistakes or get caught out by you in the future. And if you can turn your focus on them, then this will just force you to slow down them attackers even more, so that they have to execute in the final seconds of the round and put this same pressure on them. But that's going to go ahead and bring an end to this video. Hopefully you now fully understand these two roles correctly and can start utilizing this information to get to the rank you know you should be at. But that's going to be all for today, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed and this video really helped you out, and if you'd like to see more of this content. Other than that, drop a comment and let me know if you agree with this information, and go out and have a great day. Peace.